Sometimes life happens.
We see you.
And you feel all alone.
We feel you.
With nowhere to go.
We got you.
So many questions unanswered.
We understand. Yeah.
And you feel like you can't.
But God
wrestle with
understands.
your own thoughts. This is for you.
Yeah.
When life happens and it makes you feel like you're off the beat, 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 off the beat. Real authentic conversations. All right, what's up, everyone, and welcome to Offbeat Podcast. I'm your host, Jorge Ambris. Let's go. We got another amazing episode. This episode, I've been looking forward to it, man, since the day that we were able to set it up. And it is my pleasure to have this individual here with us. I believe that today's episode is going to be very educational. I know it's going to bring back some emotions, maybe even for us, maybe to some that are going to be watching us. But I believe that it's going to really be educational for us as the public to really see what these amazing people do. And today's guest, I want to introduce him. I want to just read his bio. His name is Marlon Marrache. All right. Did I say that right?
Marrache, mariachi.
All right.
Everybody says mariachi.
Marlon Marrache. All right. I had to roll that R.
There you go.
And then Marlon is a current police lieutenant with the California State University. And his recent retirement from the LAPD did not last long due to a promotion to continue his leadership and teach the next generation of law enforcement officers. According to Marlon, here's what he says. He says, there is much more work to be done. We need to teach supervisors how to investigate IA complaints. We need to teach officers their rights. And here's a little bit about Marlon. He's a 24-year LAPD veteran and has over 12 years of police misconduct investigation, adjudication, and examination experience. Much of his experience comes from when Marlon was assigned to IA Internal Affairs in a prosecutorial role and representing the chief of police, conducting board of rights, a unique tribunal hearing, the only agency with such a process in the nation. The numerous cases he tried involved false and misleading allegations and where termination was at issue. So we welcome Marlon Marrache. Come on, round of applause.
Jorgito, muchas gracias por tenerme aquí.
Es un placer.
Igualmente, gracias a todos. Well, what can I say? Thank you. I've been watching your podcast, and I got to tell you that there just isn't enough opportunities to, I suppose, tell your story and tell your journey. So here we are. So thank you.
No, thank you. And I really have been looking forward to this episode here with you, man. And I was so happy, man, when we were able to connect and get this date set up right here. And so I'm excited to just kind of give us a background a little bit about you growing up. Where are you from, Marlon? And then how you kind of came about becoming a LAPD officer.
Let's take a trip down memory lane, why don't we? Oh, gosh. So thank you for the bio. That's pretty interesting. It's pretty long. It's pretty long to say that in my 24-year career, about over 12 of these years, I really focused and concentrated on police misconduct discipline.
Yeah.
Probably a side of police that not many community members or the audience, if you will, doesn't really get to know.
Right.
So, I feel as though it's a bit unique.
Yeah.
So we can kind of get into that. But where did this all started? Well, I can tell you back in 1980, so I'm giving away my age a little bit, I came here to the States. I was born and raised in Peru. Lima, Peru.
Oh, okay.
Which kind of strangely makes me feel like all these years, ceviche, los mexicanos siempre dicen que es ceviche. And of course, I thought to myself, okay, pero nosotros somos los únicos que tenemos el ceviche original. So it's a difference, right? Because I know that if you go to a Peruvian restaurant, which is, of course, I got to be a little biased. You know, we think ourselves, este es un ceviche, está riquísimo.
Yeah. No, and you're right on it. I will give you that. I will give you that 100%. That is one of the best ceviches I've had at a Peruvian restaurant.
Thank
I
you.
will give props to Los Peruanos for that.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank you. And so here I am. My mom and dad split when I was very young. And my mom decided to move to Los Angeles, California. So at 12 years old, my dad kind of took my brother and my sister and said, hey, do you want to stay here or do you want to go to Los Angeles, California, United States? That's going to be a really tough decision. You know what? I'm out of here, without even hesitating. However, as you may know, what I've realized coming to the States, I come to realize I am also a product of an absent father, which I'm sure, we can discuss and we can talk about, where a father figure really puts, I should say, paves a good road for any kid.
Right.
When you don't have your father around, that male dominant figure, you tend to suffer. So I can tell you that I'm also a product of neglect and abandonment, just like many of us. In the 27 years that my father passed away, I want to say maybe 12, 13 years. He passed away in 2007. So that's 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I can tell you that in the 27-year absence, he tried to make that up in 5 years. So I'm a mama's boy. I came here and I was just super excited to be part of this culture. I can tell you that no one would talk to me in 7th grade unless I bought my first pair of Vans, which is that's probably what they call bullying back then.
Yeah.
Right. So here we are. I'm in 7th grade. And no one wanted to talk to me because I didn't have a pair of Vans. I didn't have OP shorts and a Lightning Bull shirt. For those of you that are in your 50s, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, but I had this personality, and I was very charismatic and enthusiastic. I was just very eager to learn. And once I got my first pair of Vans, man, that's it, man. I blew up. I was on the map.
It's amazing what a pair of shoes could do, right?
Exactly. Styles, trends. At that time, Sperry topsiders, you had the preppies in one school. And in my junior high school, this is in the San Fernando Valley, there was a magnet program. Apparently the rich kids, get to come and if you weren't part of their crew, you weren't cool. It was just such an experience to know that where I came from, todos somos iguales.
Right. Everyone kind of just blends in
Un
together.
peruano que eres flaca, gorda, con un brazo, con una pierna.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Todos somos iguales.
Yeah.
Poor, rich, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You come over here, it's a lot.
It's a culture shock.
It's a
big
culture shock.
Yeah.
And so here I am in LA in San Fernando Valley, and I got to tell you, it was school wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
I didn't graduate high school. I'm actually a high school dropout.
Okay.
In 10th grade, I got an A in PE because that was the only class that I showed up to because I just love playing basketball, which is like a new sport to me.
Right.
But I'm a soccer guy.
Okay.
Me encanta y tengo una pasión de fútbol like you wouldn't believe.
All right.
And we'll get into that later because I started coaching. And so here I am at junior high school. I dropped out of high school, and it just so happens that at 17, 18 years old, I just didn't want to, I guess education just wasn't really important to me. What was important for me at the time was seeing my mom struggle, asking my mom for money so that I can just, hang out and, buy food or hang out with the boys and have whatever just to go out. And so I just got tired because I see my mom working so hard. I mean, at one point she was working 3 jobs.
Wow.
And so I quit. I started surfing every single day, which was a big passion of mine, playing sports, working out. And at 24, 25 years old, the light bulb hit. I had to do something.
Yeah.
My best friend was thinking about being a Los Angeles police officer, and I decided to go into United States Navy. Okay. So I ended up getting my GED and my high school diploma. Went into the Navy. I did 3 years active duty. I did 2 Westpac tours on a aircraft carrier. So shipboard life, that's a whole different conversation we can have. Best decision I ever made. Honorable discharge. And at the time, I did not want to re-enlist, only for Well, I should say not only, but for a couple of reasons. One being is that I'd really miss my family.
Yeah.
When you're away and you decide to make something out of yourself, right? Hey, I gotta be responsible.
Yeah.
I gotta be a man now.
Yeah.
But my mom was just it. My mom, my sisters, I have a younger sister. So to me, family was so important.
Yeah.
And I believe it's probably important to many cultures, but I can tell you that in our Latin culture,
Oh yeah.
it's super, super important.
It's very difficult to make those type of decisions.
to detach yourself
Yeah,
completely.
To detach, yeah.
And so I wanted to come home. I didn't want to re-enlist. And at that time, my best friend pretty much says, you know what? I'm joining the police academy. This is a great gig. I was always very, I should say, apprehensive, hesitant,
Yeah.
probably had some insecurities that, yes, I am pretty impulsive and I'm pretty hyper and I have energy, but do I really want to carry a gun?
Yeah.
Do I really want to get involved in a shooting and live with that for the rest of my life? Knowing that if I break leather,
Right.
and here I am getting involved in, I have to engage, that individual happens to have a wallet or an object.
Yeah.
How do you live with that?
Right.
And so for me, that was pretty hesitant, right? Concerns.
Yeah.
But man, once I went to the take the written portion of the exam, after that, all these hesitations, insecurities became motivation and commitment. And so I joined the academy in July of 1998, and what a road. 24 years later,
Wow.
with, of course, I'm going to be a little biased, with the best agency
Right.
in the entire nation.
Yeah.
And of course, for you listeners out there, oh yeah, the Popo. We're going to talk about,
5-0.
yeah, the
Popo.
5-0, and we're going to talk about events, that have really transpired and have changed
Yeah.
policing, and we'll get into all that conversation. But I've learned so much, and it has afforded me so much success to the point where I ended up getting my undergrad. And at one point, I decided to go to law school. I got my law degree in 2016. I've taken the state bar because my goal later on in life was to practice law and be a lawyer.
Okay.
To help to do police stuff. At some point, I'm going to do that. And lucky me, I was only retired for 4 months. I discovered this world of podcasting.
Yeah.
I wanted to do this project that we talked about.
Right.
And the university made me an offer that I just could not refuse for several reasons. One, in this university, there's a soccer stadium. So I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. And so for me, I was thinking, really? I can go to work and actually attend these soccer games. So, because soccer is just my thing. And two, I get to provide that leadership.
Yeah.
And everything that I've learned, I can now give back to the next generation. So
Yeah.
really, really happy, healthy, and and here we go. We're moving forward.
That's awesome, man. That's amazing. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do now and kind of what you're passionate about now.
Good question. So one of the projects that I had in mind when I retired was, how does the community really get to know what an officer goes through when they're involved in an officer-involved shooting?
Right.
It's what we call an OIS. So you'll hear me say an OIS a lot.
Okay.
And so that's from a community perspective,
Right.
From the public.
Yeah.
Guy like yourself who's
Right.
never probably been in a shooting, I take it.
Yeah.
I should say
Well,
with the police,
Yeah.
right? So if you really think about it, not many people that you come across, at least from my
Yeah.
world, I get to ask them, hey, so you're involved in OIS? They're probably
Yeah.
going to say no.
Yeah.
So I always felt that, you know what, this is the LAPD and other major agencies, we don't do enough of a good job to inform the public what happens in an OIS.
Right.
We will tell you the facts, right? It is by law that we release I think it's anywhere between, I think it's 45 days or prior, right? It's by law. There's an assembly bill out there in California that pretty much says, look, you as an agency have to tell the public what happened in this critical incident. Gotcha. Critical incident meaning OISs. You have in custody deaths. You have like excessive force, what we call the law enforcement related injuries, LERIs. Those type of incidents the public has to know. But what happens more often, what's more popular, what's sensational is an OIS.
Right.
And so what happens is we go ahead and have the commanding officer pretty much tell the public, hey, this is who I am. I'm from media relations. We had an incident that happened on First and Don't Walk and Don't Walk. And here's a picture of the officers. There is body-worn video. Let me slow down the camera and show you the weapon, tell you about the suspect, give you certain facts about what happened in this particular incident. But after that 45th day, here's the problem. You don't know the outcome. What is it that you're going to know?
Right.
And so I always felt like, you know what, we preach this transparency.
Right.
But we're not. And that goes both ways.
Right.
That goes from the law enforcement perspective as well as the community's perspective.
Right.
They have a right to know, or I suppose you would want to know, what was the outcome?
Right.
Okay. Did the officer get disciplined, or was it a good shooting? Was it a bad shooting? You know, and so we don't. We don't do a good enough job into doing that. So the light bulb hit and I said, you know what? I really want to educate the public in doing so.
Yeah. Can I pause you there just for a little bit? Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that? Because I always try to give the benefit of the doubt. Like, I'm the type of person that I'm the same way, like full story, you know what I mean? So that way, you know, I'm not going to try to jump to conclusions right away. I'm that. Now, we know that not everyone is like that.
Right.
But why do you think that is? Do you think that? Because the only thing that I can think of is sometimes in our own personal lives, right? Like, why do we withhold? You know, and it's usually because we want to hold an image, right? We want to hold an image of like, hey, this is the image, you know, we don't want to really do anything to kind of distort. Do you think that has a little bit to do or anything to do with it?
I think it has a little bit to do with that, but more than anything, I just think people just don't care about the outcome.
Yeah.
So if you're like my daughter, for example, who's a freshman in college, she's 18 years old.
Okay.
Well, what do teenagers, I'll even go as teenagers, they'll scroll, right, for like 8 seconds. They can only watch one thing.
Yeah.
So they'll like to watch, oh, damn, look what happened. You know, oh, you know, that's the effect that they get.
Yeah.
Of course, they're not going to want to know the outcome.
Right.
So now you start reaching your audience of the 20 to 30-year-olds, right? Millennials, you know. Do they want to know? Probably. Very good question. I don't have any empirical data to kind of kind of tell you why they don't. From my lens, I just feel like people are asking what happened. In other words, what was the result?
Right.
You know, well, how did, you know, someone went through all this.
Yeah.
The empathy kicks in, right? And the sympathy kicks in as well. So they both. I suppose if you're a very empathetic and sympathetic individual, you're going to want to know the results.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that, look, if we're not pushing it, then who is going to push it?
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
No, it totally makes sense. It really does. And I think that that's what kind of, in my personal, even like you said, from my lens, that's kind of like what I've always seen is that maybe it is the image aspect of it. Like, okay, we want to preserve the image of that agency or something. So we're going to maybe, let's just inform what we can. You know, we don't want to get into too many details or maybe, like you said, like the outcome and things like that. But I think also too, like now, because of the age of the internet, you know what I mean? Because of social media, because of those like 8-second scrolls, you know what I mean? Like, I think now more than ever, like your job, your passion is becoming so necessary because now it's like, now it's no longer, hey, you know what I mean? Like, hey, are you guys going to give us an outcome? You know, it's more like almost like, no. Like we see this 8-second, 20-second video. Oh my God, I can't believe that happened. You know, and right away the public, you know, like they jump to a conclusion without knowing the entire story. So I think that's putting an even greater burden on police agencies, right, to say, okay, we got to start getting this right.
Right. And the other thing is, in today's policing, regardless of the agency, I would say probably just across the nation, your actions are going to have some criminal consequences. You know, nowadays you're looking at probably getting filed on criminally. You know, so I've always said that every OIS is a consequential event.
Right.
Okay. So
yeah, it's not something like premeditated murder.
No, it's gonna have consequences. It's gonna have physical consequences, right? Let's just say you get involved in an OIS and you get shot in the shoulder or the leg, and you're just not going to be physically the same anymore, right? It's got a lot of emotional consequences. Imagine you being involved in something that you have to live for the rest of your life. That could require therapy. That could require a lot of strength and to deal with your insecurities. If that's the case, right? And it's got neurological consequences as well, right? Now you start talking about how you react to emotions, you know, your nervous system. You know, you might be freaked out for the rest of your life.
PTSD.
PTSD is a perfect example. And last but not least, it's got criminal consequences. You can do the right thing, and you can still be charged with criminal allegations. Now, of course, that's where I kind of separate myself from what I have been doing for a living. And when I say separating, is that does everything that you do require a lot of scrutiny? Absolutely. Does everything you do when you're engaging in this gun battle, so to speak, are you going to be judged? Absolutely. And I'm all for, you know, if you do something wrong, then you know what? Then you got to go. And so my other project when I was retired is we needed to teach, we meaning me and my experience and a couple of my partners, we needed to teach the next generation into something that not many people are aware about is internal discipline. So in other words, if you treat someone out there like shit and you're totally rude, you're totally disrespectful, Memphis, the incident that happened in Memphis, something along those lines. There's Oakland PD is on a consent decree. We can talk about that later. Consent decree meaning they're being supervised by the Department of Justice, the feds, saying, hey, man, you know what? You guys have been doing jacked up stuff to your own community members for like the last 10 years. And so since I have this internal affairs, this disciplinary background this experience, I wanted to teach the next group of sergeants like, hey, look, if someone makes a complaint, it's very serious to them, no matter what it could be, whether if the traffic stop, whether you were at 7-Eleven and someone comes at you and says, hey, you know what, something happened over here, your demeanor, your attitude, your disposition. So I wanted to make sure that the next generation of sergeants and supervisors and officers, number one, know your rights, and number two, investigate to its fullest because you owe it to your department, and more than anything, you owe it to the public.
Yeah, no, that's really, really important. I believe that needs to continue to be done in practice because I look back, you know, at a lot of situations, you know what I mean, like that, even things that I went through as a child and as a teenager and things like that.
So the popo was coming for you.
Yeah. That's when like the popo, like, no, gang unit. Remember?
Got it.
No, I think
gang officers, right?
Yeah. But in Vegas, there was a unit out there, it was gang unit. And they helped that. You know what? I give them a lot of props because they really did do their job. Like they really did help clean up Vegas from a lot of gang activity at that time. But at that time, it was the gang unit. And it was like, as soon as we would see, like we could tell which cars they were, you know, we knew, but we're like, gang unit. As soon as they're like, we didn't even have to look. We just, as soon as gang unit, vámonos, let's go. We're running. We're diving into balconies. I mean, it was funny. But anyways, because I recall situations, you know what I mean? And I think part of also why this is such a great idea, in my opinion, is because I think we do need to I feel we need to reestablish that trust between police officers and the public. And because a lot of trust has been broken, and it's not something that just happened during this social media stage.
Correct.
You know, it's something that has been going on for years.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I think of situations that happened to me. I even talked about it on the podcast one time when, you know, I got real bad scrutiny and from a police officer, and I was only 14 or 15 years old at that time. I had just come back from Mexico. I was living out there for 2 years. And, you know, I was just playing with some of the neighborhood friends there. They weren't even gang related, nothing. We weren't gang related at that time or anything. We were just friends there, you know, just playing. And anyways, police came and I remember one of the police officers, he was very, very, very rude. You know, he told me things that I don't think any 15-year-old should ever hear. You know what I mean? And it was, you know, he insulted me. You know, he pretty much not cursed me out with cuss words,
right,
but he pretty much like cursed me, like basically saying like, hey, you know what? Like, I'm not going to take you today, but one day I will. One day I will, and I'm going to be the one to do that. You know, basically like setting you up and basically labeling you. And, you know, but I look back at situations like that and I was like, why couldn't we as a community at that time really speak out? And I think that because there was already trust broken, you know, there was already a fear. It wasn't a healthy fear.
Correct.
You know, because I believe in having respectful fear. You know, there's a good fear and bad fear. There's the good fear, like the Bible talks about, like, you know, hey, fear those that are in authority because they are established there to rule over us, to basically like to punish what is wrong. You know, like they're there for a reason, you know. And but then there's also that other fear where it's like, no, I don't want to get involved with them because they might do this or they might do that, you know. And I think that for so many years that was broken, you know what I mean? Because like my mom, she tried to come and defend me in the best way that she could.
Correct.
But she didn't, you know, the public wasn't educated, you know, like what we're trying to do now. It wasn't educated in that sense. Like our communities weren't educated in that sense where, hey, you know what, you know, let's call it what it is. You know, like I think that's what we've done such a bad job in is calling what bad is calling bad, and calling what's good is good, or explaining, hey, this is why. And I think that for so long, there hasn't been that.
Yeah, no communication.
No communication.
Absolutely.
No, like, no one taking accountability and saying, yeah, you know what, you're right, that was wrong. Like you're explaining right now, disciplinary actions. You know what, he did that. Okay, let me take a look at that. Let me review that. And I'm not just gonna look at it. I'm not gonna just tell you that I'm gonna look at it, but I'm actually gonna review it. And then, like you said, follow up afterwards with you.
Absolutely. Back in 2014, when I was in internal affairs, we launched a bias policing mediation program.
Yeah.
At the time, the police commission and other stakeholders felt as though officers were out there pulling people over because of their gender, their race, and just unconstitutional, meaning you're just going to pull someone over just for absolutely no legal reason.
Yeah.
And so we created a mediation program with the city attorney where we have a mediator pretty much sit down and have a face-to-face. Obviously, it's got to be voluntary.
Right.
The officer. So I brokered that deal. That was my job. My job was to get a hold of officers and say, hey, look, you want this complaint to look in your... You want this complaint in your folder to be mediated, or you're going to go through like this entire investigation that's going to take a long time.
Right.
And someone will say, okay, the buy-in was, I honestly thought the buy-in from the officers was going to be more difficult than it was from the complainant, from the community member, only because of culture. And we'll get into that. Because culture, I'm a true believer at this, culture will always dictate what you do and what you don't do.
100%.
That is so true and accurate, especially in our profession.
Yeah.
And certainly I'm sure it happens in other professions as well. And so in this particular setting, you get to be face-to-face and have this discussion about why I pulled you over.
Hey, why'd you do this? Yeah.
And a lot of the times is, sir, you know, ma'am, you had tinted windows and you were going like 65 and you blew a stop sign. The first time that I ever saw you is when you rolled down your windows. So how could you think that I pulled you over because of your race? Right? Now, was my demeanor a little too harsh? Yeah. Did my disposition didn't come out right? Yeah, I didn't have my cup of coffee, and last night, you know, I'm doing diaper duty, and I didn't get any sleep. So for that, I apologize. And a lot of time it's just that misunderstanding
Right.
about how you approach someone.
Right.
And that just goes in that stop, right?
Yeah.
And so what happens is that the department felt like we needed to do this, and it was healthy to do that because conflict does create some health out of it, right?
Right.
You get some good resolution out of it, healthy resolution, I should say. You get to really have a discussion with this person because you never know. You might run into that person again.
Right.
And certainly I don't want you to leave that traffic stop thinking to yourself, well, this dude's a douchebag. You know what? He treated me like shit, excuse my language. Then all the officers are going to treat me like shit. And that's the problem that we have even in today's lens as people look at police.
Right.
Because of certain incidents.
Right.
You know, there's over 18,000.
Yeah.
I thought it was 1,800. I got to do my research on that. So I've been saying lately 1,800 agencies in the United States. I want to say it's about 18,000. Maybe you can help me out so I can be a little accurate about that.
In America.
How many agencies in the United States?
18,000.
18,000.
Law enforcement in
Okay.
the United States is made up of about 18,000 federal, state, county, and local agencies.
Okay, so I stand corrected for all. If you've heard me in another podcast or so, I stand extremely corrected because there's a big difference between 1,800 and 18,000 agencies.
Yeah.
You got to keep in mind that's a lot of police stations.
Right.
And some stations, there's just not just one. There's a lot. My point is that you can't just paint all of us with this broad brush.
Yeah.
You know, to this very day, if I pull you over or if I have an encounter with you,
Right.
I'm going to treat you with respect, just like I always was. The problem is that it goes to this culture.
Yeah.
Because that interaction you have with that police officer back when you were 14, 15 years old,
Right.
chances are that's not an aberration.
Right.
That happens. He's probably been doing that for quite some time.
Yeah.
And so it takes accountability and leadership,
Right.
that sergeant, that lieutenant, that captain, even the chief, to say, you know what? We're not going to turn a blind eye on this.
Yeah.
We're going to change this.
Or that partner.
That partner.
Yeah.
And so I can tell you that we're working. We're working in the right direction.
Yeah.
I suppose I can ask for patience, right? Patience is a virtue.
Yeah.
And we're heading in the right direction. And that's one of the reasons why I teach for Savage Training Group up in Northern California. Great partner of mine, the owner, who hired me to do this. And we're getting a lot of police officers that are interested to really go about police functions the right and the legal way. That's probably the best way that I can explain.
No, that's awesome. For me, like, that's all. And I just kind of want to plug in right now a little bit. I want to plug it in because I want to be very, very crystal clear.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with political affiliation. Nothing. Everything we're going to talk about right now is just clearly a conversation.
Correct.
I want to make that clear because there's things that I agree with and then there's things that I disagree with. And I want the public to know that, you know what, that's the standpoint that I feel. I'm not saying that we all should, but I feel we should all approach, because I feel that those two things, the social media, but then also too, like, a lot of the political, you know, has driven some of our cultures, you know what I mean, to kind of paint this picture, you know what I mean? And I've always been grateful, and I've even spoken about it on the other podcast. I'm so grateful that for the opportunities that I had to not only have met that officer,
yes,
but down the line, I was able to meet some very, very great officers, like very great. And I'm so grateful for that. And the reason why is because I never wanted to be that guy. I never wanted to be that guy that, even though I was in this culture, I was involved, I was affiliated with doing what I was doing back in my teenage years. But I always understood something. I was like, I understood this. I'm like, dude, I was messing up. You know, and I think I even released a clip not too long ago. I'm like, I knew that I was messing up. And I never had a problem with when I got caught, you know, when I would get caught, like, I knew what I was doing. It wasn't like, shocker, bro, like, you know, like, hey, we're pulling you over. Like, why are you No, I knew why they were pulling me over. I knew why I was being handcuffed. I knew why I was being arrested. And part of that was because I was able to me and I was able to differentiate that. I was able to like at a young age, I was able to understand that, you know what, just like not all black people are the same, just like not all white people are the same.
Correct.
Just like not all Mexicans are the same, just like not all Peruanos are the same, just like not all ceviche is the same.
That's right.
Right? It's all diverse, it's all different, and everyone is unique. And so we have to afford that also to our police officers, to our police agencies. We have to understand that we can't, I think that's the biggest error that we commit in America with social media and everything is we take the human factor.
We do.
We take the human factor completely out. And I think we have to, my hope is through this, like we are putting that in and we're able to we're sitting down and we're conversating.
Yeah, I can only tell you that there's not enough platforms.
Right.
And thank you for the invitation to really have these really good, healthy conversations, which could be conflicting. Hey, look, I'll be the first one to tell you, we don't always get it right. We don't. The use of forces and the OISs and the things that you see that are so sensationalized.
Yeah.
It's ugly.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now, man, you come fill my shoes one day.
Oh, yeah.
And tell someone, I'll give you an example in terms of culture. So back in the academy, they used to, in tactics, they had an acronym, ATD. It's ask, tell, and do. Basically, when you are going to effect an arrest, put someone in handcuffs, you're going to ask them, hey, Jorge, turn around, put your hands behind your head. No, F you. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm telling you to put your hands behind your head and spread your legs, cross your fingers. No, F you. So now I'm left with D. I'm doing it. And so I do it. Right? So it's ATD. So you're taught that. Now, again, I'm taking you back 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Of course, things have evolutionized where now we have de-escalation. Now we have pretty much wrapping around, I should say, to service you.
Yeah.
To see, hey, Jorge, what's going on? What is wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why won't you turn around and put your hands behind your head?
Yeah.
What do you got going on? And maybe you have mental instability. Maybe you have suicidal ideations. Maybe there's a lot going on and we just don't know. So if time is on our side and you don't have any weapons on you, well, you know what?
There's a chance to de-escalate that.
Yeah, and we're de-escalating while we're talking. And so from that perspective, that's great. And I'm all for that.
Right.
And I'm all for detailed, everything that you do has to have specificity. I'm all for that. But unfortunately, there's incidents, that have happened.
Yeah.
George Floyd, the incident. I mean, we can go back to Ferguson. We can go what happened in Kenosha.
Yeah.
I mean, there's go ahead.
Yeah, no, let's kind of break that down because I kind of even want to plug in a little bit here. Kind of going back to what you were saying about, culture. Culture really does dictate how, and I'll be the first one to say that from the culture that I grew up in, the homie culture, the SA culture, even though it was very similar, Vegas to Los Angeles, very similar. So I understood something, and it wasn't so much because I was taught it. I just understood that, like, going back, like, what we were doing wrong, we were doing wrong.
Correct.
And so, and that's where like it's very hard to kind of cookie cut every situation.
Right.
Because coming from where I come from, I knew the people that I was with. I knew them. So I knew that when gang units would come around, kind of going back to like why did they ever permit pulling people over without probable cause, right? Like things like that, things that have happened in our history of law enforcement and the public. Well, here's the thing though, that we look at the negative, but the truth is, and this is me coming from that lifestyle, a lot of times those things probably saved a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and let's be honest, let's be real. Like there's people's children, there's people's family members that were literally saved because, there were units or there were people with instructions to like, hey, if you see a bald-headed SA, if you see, like it was like, that was a time where stereotypes there, I think there was in history, it's shown us that stereotypes have been helpful. Are they always right? No. Have they been helpful? Yes. And I say that from my point of view because why? Because things have happened and I've seen things go down. And it's been like where, yeah, if they wouldn't have made that arrest, if they wouldn't have made that pullover, like I could speak of an example. Like I remember I have a friend, he's in prison right now. He's probably there for life.
Okay.
But pretty much like he had just gotten released and he was ordered to go do something, to go do a hit. He went, and in that process, he was involved in a kidnapping. And because of how they looked and because of what they were doing, they were pulled over. And so basically, he was literally in and out from one day to another. That wouldn't have happened, and probably somebody's life wouldn't have been saved if that wouldn't have happened.
Got it. Absolutely.
You see what I mean? So,
Absolutely. Very good point.
I'm the type of person that I see the rationale in things. Like, do I agree with everything? Like that moment that we were pulled over as kids, as 15, was that right? No. Was anything prevented at that time? No. Was, you know what I mean? So that's what, and I kind of like, let's talk little bit about that, because I think there is a place, and I think that that's what sometimes the public might be kind of blinded to, not so much blinded to, but maybe they're on the fence about misinformed, because I think some people understand, but I think some people are still like, yeah, but I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's just. But I think that at the same time, like, you guys are out there to, you know, solve crime, but also to prevent crime, right?
Prevention's huge. So the light bulb just hit. And let me ask you this, though. When you went through your teenage years, I take it that community where you live, everybody knew each other, right? Have you experienced gang-on-gang crime where here goes one shooting of the homie rival gang, and you know that there's going to be retaliation. Right. And so, and it happened in daylight.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood knows.
Yeah.
Where's the outcry? One. Two, do you really go and tell the police,
No.
You know what? It's so-and-so, he was wearing this. That's my point.
Yeah.
But if it was a police officer who got into an OIS, then you know what? And it was just, well, he had a knife or he had no weapons and they shot him in the back. Forget about it. It's going to be sensationalized.
Right.
That's the disconnect. I suppose that's the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
there's this disconnection. There's, I suppose, I wouldn't say so much trust, but I would just say that awareness.
Yeah.
If it's happening in your own neighborhood, why wouldn't you want to tell? Because guess who's going to come help you? You're going to call 911, and guess who's going to come help you? We are. And so that's always been like, especially with everything that's going on lately.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. Like, I think sometimes people need to be real. Like, I've always, every time I have these conversations with friends, I'm like, yo, like, we got to be real about this. Like, I'm not saying that what happened was right or wrong. Like, I'm just waiting for the entire outcome so that I can truly pass judgment. What I'm trying to say is, let's be real. Like, let's be real. Like what I'm sharing with you is like, man, because I knew people, man, and it's sad to say, but I knew people that if they were on their way to do something and if they were pulled over by an officer and that officer was going to intrude or interrupt what they were going to do, I knew people that without hesitation, they would pull a trigger. Without hesitation.
Correct.
And so I always say, if I knew people like that, how do you expect some of these officers to react sometimes? It's very difficult for them to, it's very difficult. Like sometimes we complain about systemic things, right?
Correct.
But the thing is that we want to use systems to try to control our agencies.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes you have to understand that every situation is different. It's like you go to a customer service call center. I can guarantee you that they can answer probably 100 calls the same way, but then there's going to be one call. Yeah. There's going to be one call that's going to be like, hey, why'd you guys do this? And why'd you guys do that? And it's going to tempt you to react differently.
Very good point. Which brings me to something that I believe it's missing, and again, be patient, is emotional intelligence. EI is on the rise. Well, it's been around for quite some time.
Yeah, it's becoming more. I think it's becoming more valuable. To understand.
Right, and it's getting to the platforms.
Right.
Where we all need it. You're right. You get tempted, and it's even worse with us.
Yeah.
You got a badge, you feel, I'll be hey man, look, you put on a badge and uniform, you got the gun, and you feel like, sometimes you feel like I'm unstoppable, but you got to also think to yourself, hey man, you know what?
It's a lot of power.
A lot of authority, but I'm putting my life on the line.
Exactly.
For, I wouldn't say a few pennies and dollars, but still, of course we all want to get paid more, but my life is on the line. And so what you think is, I got to get home to my family. I got to do what I have to do to get home to my family. With that being said, I've taken that leadership role where I need to make sure that this next generation, if you're on right now on the streets, I want to make sure that you need to know the law to its fullest.
Yeah.
1, 2, you need to treat people no any different than I treat you or you treat your family.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then you're going to get some discipline out of this.
Right.
And so that's my other half, where I'm teaching to investigate.
Yeah.
Because I'd be the first one to tell you, some people just don't like the police, you know, because of their past experiences.
Because, exactly.
And then they'll say, and again, it goes to that EI or that demeanor, and they'll say, well, that cop was just being rude and disrespectful,
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's on body-worn video. Let's watch it.
Right.
And believe it or not, there is more complaints that are classified as unfounded. Unfounded meaning it never occurred, as opposed to sustained, where it means that it occurred.
Yeah.
There's way more. I can give you numbers, but I can tell you it's so disproportionate.
Yeah.
What I mean is that sometimes you just don't like the popo, you don't like the police, and you'll make a complaint. Well, you know what? When he took me out of the car, he threw me up against the wall. Okay, Mr. Johnson, not a problem. Give me about 48 hours or so, and I'll get back to you because I'm going to go watch body-worn video.
Yeah.
Okay, so then you watch body-worn video. And it's nothing that what Mr. Johnson was describing. Right? And so you call back Mr. Johnson and say, Mr. Johnson, you know what? Come in the office. Look, whatever it is that you were alleging that my officers did, didn't really turn out to be the way you said it was. If you like, I can take in the room and here we can go watch body-worn video. And of course, Mr. Johnson's like, well, hey, I got to go. Yeah. So you got to ask yourself, why does that happen? And I think that has to do with just the way we see law enforcement. And it hasn't 100%. It hasn't gotten, I suppose, any healthier or any better when you have the Memphis PD incident where you have those 4 officers. It's just so grotesque. It's disgusting to watch.
You're talking about the one where they beat the man, right?
They beat him up. They did
4 black officers.
Yes.
That was.
It's just disheartening to watch, and it gives us, it gives law enforcement such a. I was asked, "Hey, Marlon, can you break down this use of force?" And I told my colleague, I said, "No, it would be insulting for me to even render a factual breakdown." Yeah,
because you see it as it was just from start to finish.
That's not police work, bro. Right. That is not police work. You don't get.
No, that looked like a mob just jumping.
Right,
that looked like somebody was being jumped into a gang.
As elementary and as humorous as it might sound, there's not a police academy in the entire United States where you have an instructor that says, "Today, we're going to teach you how to punch a suspect while they're handcuffed." It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people might get their image. Like, I think that's where, and that's why I put that plug in. Like, this is not politically affiliated.
Correct.
Whatever we say, if you in your own personal time, you want to affiliate that, like, go ahead. Like, we're telling you, this has nothing to do, because the reason why I say that is because I believe this with all my heart. I believe this, that a lot of things are politicized in a way because it's going to favor one party over the other. But we have to stop doing that. We have to stop doing that as the people, as the public. You know what I mean? We have to understand, because I believe that. I truly believe that. Are there bad apples? Of course.
Absolutely.
Of course there is. And like you said, I love that you said that, because you're like, there's not even anything for me to break down, because it's not police work.
It's not police work.
You know what I mean? But because they did that, it doesn't mean that every single person, you know what I mean, in the entire world or in the entire 18,000 agencies that are out there
18,000.
are going to affiliate themselves or act that way, or, you know, like, no, you know?
And to add to that, Jorge, you know what? I want to be fair and reasonable and be on both sides here, because I'll be the first one to tell you that there is some bad shootings. Mm-hmm. Cops do police work, and it's just not what they're taught. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is that for every tactical application,
Yeah.
when you go into a situation, right, or an incident where you either have to effect an arrest, prevent an escape, or overcome resistance. So I'm giving you a little bit about 835 APC. And by the way, if you're a police officer, you better read AB 392 and 835 APC, because that's changed the entire, it's a game changer as of January of 2020, and we'll get into that later on. But when you apply all these tactics that you were taught, it doesn't always go like you were taught, right? So a lot of these policies, if you will, is you can deviate. You can deviate substantially.
Right.
That's fine. That's what the department's saying. But you know what? You better justify why you're doing that substantial deviation.
Right.
And if you can't justify it, then I'm going to have to jam you up.
Right.
That's the way we see things. And I don't think the public really knows that.
Yeah.
So I can tell you things like what happened with George Floyd, things that happened in Kenosha, all these incidents. And again, bear in mind that you and I suppose I can speak for you, but I never knew where Ferguson was. Did you?
No.
Exactly. No. You didn't know where Minneapolis was. You didn't know where Kenosha. I keep saying Kenosha. That sounds like a cool town. I suppose no one's really visited Kenosha. But my point is that there's these little pockets throughout the nation where the culture, it's exactly what it is. You really think that Officer Chauvin's knee on the neck, you really think that's his first time doing it? A 19-year veteran? No.
Yeah.
So what happens is that culture kind of dictates what you do.
Yeah.
And so
it kind of like it kind of hardens the heart.
Yeah, and what happens is, and I'm on LinkedIn all the time, and I hear all these experts talk about, oh, well, we need reform. We need to train. Absolutely. Yeah. Should we train? By all means, we need training practically every week.
Yeah. Because
things are constantly changing. Right. Things like laws are changing.
Yeah.
The tactic applications, the non-lethal weapons that you have. Yeah.
The culture.
The culture is changing.
The culture's
Did you
changed.
know that they have like this, I think they call it a bolo, where there's this, it's kind of hard to explain, but there's this apparatus where you deploy it like in a circle, like a hula, to the arrestee. There's someone you're going to try to effect an arrest, and you press this button and it wraps them up.
Wow.
And, you know, instead of you going hands-on and getting it on.
Right. So
I know people know that. It's being tested, but it's coming out. There's a new taser that is just phenomenal in a way that when I deploy the darts and the actual pressure that comes with the voltage, it doesn't allow you to even move.
Oh, wow.
And it senses when the body is actually moving. It's really out of, you know. So in other words, when you deploy the taser, because I'm sure you've seen incidents where people just grab the dart and right. You can be high on PCP or something like, what? This doesn't do anything to me.
I've seen some people do that, like where they hit them with the tasers and there's like nothing.
I rolled out to an OIS where we deployed the beanbag shotgun like 5 times. Shot them with like 10 beam, nothing. Wow. We deployed the taser 4 times. We deployed the 40 mil, which is another socket. It's a rubber pellet type of a bullet. Well, not so much of a bullet, but a rubber big giant pellet, like about this big, where when it hits you, it penetrates just enough, so it doesn't completely penetrate at all. I stand corrected. The impact just causes so much pain that is supposed to just,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
of course, who wants to get hit?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to get hit with a 40 mil. We tried all those less lethal weapons, and he was still charging and going officers. And the long story short, he ended up in an OIS, and you know he got shot. He came out with a shot. There's a whole story behind it, but my point is that all these less lethal weapons, like a taser, the new ones coming out, are supposed to help you as much as you can, but it doesn't look good. It's ugly, but you know what? You have to know the law and how to use it and how to apply it. And we do a good job, but I think we can do better.
Yeah, no, it's and kind of going back to what you're saying, as far as, you know, people not understanding that sometimes it's so true, because the thing is, you can be given the guide, you can be given the ins and outs, but the thing is that no one is ever going to be able to actually tell you how it went down unless that person is able to break down exactly how it went down. Like you said, like you guys are asked afterwards, like, okay, why did you deviate from that? And if you're able to explain why you deviate, okay, then we can continue from there. But a lot of people don't understand that. It's like, you can have the system, you know, in play and everything, but there's going to be situations where it's going to be very difficult for officers to follow everything exactly by the book. You know, I always use this analogy with people. I always ask them, have you ever been in a fist fight? Like, have you ever been in a confrontation with someone? And, you know, if they say, yeah, I'll be like, okay, can you recall move per move?
There you go.
Moment per moment. Can you recall your thought process through that? And I can almost, and I'm not trying to say that in a way like where it's condescending or it's rude. I'm just asking you sincerely. Like, I'll be sincere. All the fist fights I've been in, can I recall every movement, everything that I did, my thought process through it? No. You know why? Because that instinct in us comes out.
Yes.
That instinct once you feel a punch, you know, we all know this. Once you feel a punch, once you feel pain that's being caused from someone else, what do? You go in protection mode.
Yes.
You go in either savage mode, protection mode, instinct mode. And what happens from there, you kind of, I'm not saying you completely blank out, but the thing is that you have to understand that there is no cookie cut. There is no formula to controlling emotions, thought patterns, heart patterns, emotional patterns, all of those things. You know, that's where I always tell people, that's why there is no law, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. There are laws that can be put in place. There are bills that can be put in place. There are policies that can be put in place to try and better, right? Better.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, there is no law that can change the human heart.
Absolutely.
You know, and kind of going back to what you were saying about that officer with George Floyd, you could, like you said, you could see it right away. That was a culture that was in him. And that was because, why? Because it doesn't matter what laws were thrown at that person or that individual.
Correct.
He was going to use what he wanted to use and what he felt was necessary. Why? Because that's who he is. You know, that's the individual.
That's how he operates.
Right.
You know, and the culture, it, probably just not him. And again, I'm assuming here, but I would imagine it's, you know, how they just conduct, you know, police work. Yeah. And so to finish my point about this training, we talk about, you know, defunding didn't help. You know, this whole movement of defunding, that didn't set, you know, well with it, with not so much from a political perspective. It's just the fact that, you know, I was always a true believer. Look, you got to call 911, man. Yeah. You know, and we're going to come help you. Yes. You know, we have some bad apples.
Right.
And we're doing the best that we can to get rid of those bad apples.
Yeah.
But more than anything is, as a result of this Memphis PD incident, they also talked about hiring standards. So you have the component of hiring standards. Hey, should we lower the hiring standards? Or these officers' hiring standards were lower, so that's the reason why we hired them. Yeah. So there's experts out there that swear that, well, you know what? If you lower the hiring standards, this is what you're going to get. I, you know what? Yeah. Me personally, I disagree. I disagree with reform. We shouldn't be reforming all the time. Well, you know what? Maybe we should come up with more laws to protect the community. And I'm supposed to
laws do not change the human heart.
Right.
I've always said it.
So then my thing has always been, it is organizational culture, AKA cop culture.
Yeah.
That is what needs to change.
Yeah.
And there's 18,000 agencies.
It's not easy.
So there's a lot of work, probably even past my time when I'm done doing law enforcement. But that requires what? It requires a lot of great leadership and a lot of accountabilities.
Right.
You can't be that sergeant that's going to turn a blind eye when your officers are doing some shady-ass police work.
Right.
You can't be that lieutenant that depends on your sergeant to know that no one's doing shady-ass cutting corners type police work. Certainly up command staff all the way to the chief. And who's ultimately responsible? It's the chief.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you can't handle it, you can't sit there and tell your officer, you know what?
Right.
You better cut it off. You know, or not only am I jamming you up, you keep doing this shit, you're going to get fired.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We don't do that, but we're getting there because then there's this brotherhood.
Yeah.
Don't be so mean.
Yeah. And that's. I want to kind of touch on that a little bit, but before I do, I kind of want to because I've heard that the hiring standards, they're not high enough. Well, I disagree with that because I think they're too damn high.
Right.
I tried to apply for the I think it was for the sheriff's department.
Okay.
Years back. I passed everything, Marlon. I passed the written test, physical test, everything. And I laugh, man, because the day we took the written test, they gave us the pre-background history test, right? And so the one of the sergeants or lieutenants, I don't know, he came up real nice. You know, he's like, "Hey guys, congratulations on completing your written test. Here's the packet. Take it home with you. Take your time. You'll turn it in when you come and do the physical agility test. Look, guys, be honest." I'm like, okay. And he's like, yeah, be completely honest. It doesn't matter. What we really want to look at is your past 10 years. Your past 10 years, right?
Okay.
That's what I was like, okay. I was like, all right. So I was like, all right, I was brutally honest.
You're like too transparent. Is basically what you're trying to get
transparent, man. I was
at
like,
the 9th year, this is what happened.
Yeah. Like, do you have any? Have you ever been affiliated with anyone has gone to prison? Yes. Do you have family in prison? Yes.
Might not want to hire him.
Have you ever done drugs? Yes. I mean, I was honest about everything, you know, and I got a letter, you know, after the agility. Hey, congratulations, you passed everything. But unfortunately, you know, you can't proceed to the next stage because of, you know, the pre-background test. So I said, man, so like, I was honest, man. You guys told me to be honest. And because I was, you know, it had already been like about 13, 15 years or so that I was clean. I was good, you know.
Correct.
Good behavior. Everything was good. But, oh, well. But anyways, I wanted to just kind of plug that in because a lot of people say like, no, the hiring standards aren't high enough. But I disagree because, I mean, they didn't hire me. They're like, yeah, we're not going to put a gun in that guy's hand.
I can only tell you is be glad that you didn't. I say that with some humor. I say that with you know, with some what's the best way to describe it? I say that with not so much passion, but compelling to tell you that sometimes it's just not for everybody.
Oh yeah, no, and,
you know,
and I came to find that out. Like,
that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
I say that with conviction.
Yeah,
to tell you that it's just not. You're gonna suffer.
Yeah,
a lot from it. I can tell you that it cost me. My career did cost me a lot of obstacles. I mean, I got a divorce. It cost me a divorce.
Yeah.
It cost me some relationships in general. That's a lot of it has to do with my upbringing, but certainly my career didn't help. You know, it wasn't as healthy. The good thing is today, as we speak, there's a lot of mental wellness.
Yeah.
Companies, vendors,
Right.
coaches and advisors, people who are speaking so much about, hey, look what happened to me, so you can learn from it.
Right.
Because there's a lot of cops out there that suffer, especially mentally, man, a lot. I mean, it changed me to the point where when I was in a relationship with one of my ex-girlfriends where it just wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
You're sitting here telling me about your day, and you're telling me about your problems, or you want me to do something, and then next thing you know, you're getting all emotional and we start arguing.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I just saw a couple dead bodies. I almost got to a shooting. So what happens is your emotions and everything you kind of get numb.
Yeah.
And so for me, it wasn't as healthy as it should have been.
Yeah.
But then again, what profession isn't, right? I mean, I want to be a lawyer. I'm sure my phone's going to go off and I got to hear, everybody's problem, and I got to deal with the law and see how I can get my client off or whatever.
But I'm glad you bring that up, because I think that's the human side that I really want people to see. That's the thing, like that at the end of the day, our officers in our community, they are human beings. A lot of them are fathers. A lot of them are husbands. A lot of them are wives. A lot of them are mothers, and we have to stop looking at it as if they're just part of a system.
Yes.
I really hate that. I really hate when people do that to people. It's like, we talk about this, ending this systemic stuff and all these language that we try to use, but then we do that to the other people. Like we do things that supposedly we don't like. We take things that we supposedly don't like, and we try to just categorize others in the same way.
Yes.
And I think that that's not the real way of healing. We have to really understand, when you share that, it does put me in a different place, because it's like, man, at the end of the day, these officers, are just trying to do a job. They're trying to do a career that, yes, they chose. Yes, they should be held to higher standards. Yes, that's all in agreement. But at the end of the day, they are still just people.
Humans.
Absolutely. And, and I kind of want to even go back to that. And I think that's what a lot of times people, because I know there's been a lot of accusations, and I don't know how true they are. I don't have all the information, the facts or anything, but I just going to kind of go based off what a lot of people say is like that there is even that gang culture within a lot of police agencies, the LAPD, the sheriff's department. I know they've gotten a lot of heat for that. And there's no doubt, like you said, there are bad apples. There are
Correct.
A lot of bad apples. But it really, what I try to understand, and I try to get people to understand, is that, well, the thing is that it's like any group of people. It's like any community. Like when you're around the same people every day, of course it becomes a culture. Of course it becomes a camaraderie.
Yes.
Of course it becomes a brotherhood, a sisterhood. Of course things become a little bit more, it becomes trickier. But show me a community, show me a job where people have been, any profession. I used to be a claims adjuster.
Okay.
And to this day, I still got buddies.
Yes.
I had actually a friend not too long ago on the podcast who was a vendor for one of our work comp companies. And, we still stay in contact.
Yes.
Why? Because it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer or you work at a warehouse. If you're around the same people every day, day in, day out, you're spending 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day with these people. What do you expect? We expect to be, we don't expect to be robots, but we expect the PD to be like robots and just go in, do their job, no communication, everything by the book, and then just go back home and everything is merry. But come on, can you kind of speak into that a little bit?
Yeah, it's it doesn't really. It goes to what you're talking about, the touching the human side, right? We don't see it that way. We don't see the. I always believe that for every bad incident that you see on social media and the news, we should have 2 or 3 good incidents. Of what we do. Yeah. And when I want to make sure that when we talk about good incidents, is that sometimes I see on social media, like in Instagram or any other page, where, hey, I'm walking the old lady, you know, across the street.
Oh yeah.
Or I'm at the lemonade stand with, you know, with kids.
Right.
And look how awesome this job is.
Getting a cat down from a tree.
Exactly, getting the cat down from the tree. And look at us, you know, we're this happy, really awesome police department. You know what? No, that's not what it is. Okay. What it is you're going to be working weekends. You're going to be working holidays. You're going to be working graveyards. You're going to put your life on the line. Yeah. And put a vest and log on and go at it. And you don't know what that person has.
What could happen that day.
Or what could happen that day. Yeah. Hoping and praying to God that you make it home to your family. So that's the problem, is that we don't see, we're doing good. I'm not going to say we're not doing a bad job on it. It's just that, I suppose, awareness. And mental awareness is more so than anything. You know, there's a lot of suffering, I can tell you, you know, and I don't mean to sound, you know, depressing, you know, the sad part, but, you know, one too many funerals, a lot of them for suicide. You know, and suicidal ideation and suicidal tendencies.
Talk about that, man.
You know, when you see mental health awareness and you're dealing with a lot in the public, a lot of the radio calls for service are people who are suffering from mental illness. Yeah. But you know what? You also suffer from mental illness.
It could be a bad day. It could be a bad moment.
Yeah.
You could be going through, I mean, like you share, like, I mean, share, why don't you kind of even put yourself in that story? Because I know you say you went through a divorce, like, and you were still policing at that time, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, absolutely.
I mean, talk about, can you kind of share a little bit, how was that emotionally for you, doing the job and having to go through that?
It's just, unfortunately for me, my parents weren't really the best role models. Yeah. There's something to be said about modeling from your parents. Yeah. So if your parents are together, I suppose, and everything is happy and healthy, and they go argue on the side or whatever, and they don't expose that to the kids, I suppose you're going to probably grow up to
have healthy habits.
Have healthy habits and have healthy relationships. Yeah. For me, there was just a lot of neglect and abandonment. Yeah. So for me, I suppose it was just easier to walk away. Fight or flight, you know what? I don't want to deal with this.
You had trained yourself already with a wall.
Right. And there's a lot of impulsivity from my behalf. Yeah. Now, of course, that didn't help being a police officer. Yeah. Why? Because I was used to just going into a situation, handling it, and getting out, and just go on to the next situation, handle that, and getting out. So for me, it was just easy. I never had any patience with conflict. So that taught me a lot about my profession. And it's certainly, when I brought it home, we used to always joke around in our profession where, and I remember a lot of my friends and my colleagues would say, "Oh man, I'm at work, man. It's like a vacation." I don't know if you ever heard that. Like, wow.
I think that's a lot of professions.
I would imagine we're not the only. Thank you for correcting that. Oh my God, you know what? It's like paradise. I used to always say, when people say, "Oh, I'm living the dream," really? Well, they always walk around, "Hey, what's up, bro?" "Yeah, I'm living the dream." No, you're not. Because to me, my dream is Bora Bora, water bungalow, right? 10 days, no phone, con mi cerveza, dip, come back, 10 days, no phone. That's living the dream to me. Yeah. But that's besides the point. So what happens is that you start getting into this, you know, it's a vacation when I come home. Mm-hmm. You know what I realize, Jorgito, is that it's not. Mm-hmm. If you're telling yourself that you want to come to work and you want to be at work more than you want to be at home with your wife and your kids, that's a problem. Right. And so what happens is that us men, we don't like to, you know, so when you start talking about strength, like who's the strongest? Women are. Oh, yeah. More so than we are.
Yeah. I agree with that, man.
They'll link the gauntlet and say, you know what, we have issues. Yeah. So let's face those issues. Yeah. So that's what happens. And unfortunately, in this profession, when you say stuff like that, you know what? I've come to realize that go home, go home and manage it and get some help.
Right.
You know, go to therapy.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not built that way.
Yeah.
You know, and
yeah.
so I always found that to be, you know, a little, not so much strange, but now it really makes sense where, you know what, don't, maybe it is a vacation to you, but do some self-reflection and go home.
Yeah. And I think that's the healthy balance right there is the best of both worlds is being able to, you know, because I think at the same time, like we all have to be able to compartmentalize. We all have to be able to, there's going to be moments where we are going to have to, like, per se, I don't like to use that word, but I'm going to use it, is like suck it up. You know, like we have to learn how to suck it up, brush things off and get done what we have to get done. But the healthy balance is, I think, in that where, okay, once you are in that zone where, okay, yeah, I do need to work on these issues, these situations. And I think that's one of the things that where I love what you're doing and I love what you guys are trying to implement, you know what I mean? And for this now generation of police officers and the future generation of police officers is to really find and create that healthy balance. Because I think I think when we're honest, we're honest and we're transparent, you know, it doesn't mean that we're going to win everyone's trust. Because at the end of the day, like you said, it's true. There are people that it doesn't matter what you can do. It doesn't matter what you can say. They can have all the reform they want. They can have everything that they ask for. And at the end of the day, they will still have something to complain about. I believe that. There are just people like that, and it doesn't matter. They're just not happy. You know what I mean? But I believe that for a lot of people, and I could say that even for myself, like, for example, you know, like we're kind of going back to what you were saying is, like the reform, you know, all that, like, and I'm in agreement with that. Like I don't think reform isn't always the answer.
Correct.
Are there things that we can do to kind of change things? Of course. And I know that's, you know, like where a lot of, well, no, that's what we mean. Like things need to change. But I think sometimes like we have to really look at agency by agency.
Yes.
Like I always tell people, the example of here in San Bernardino, I'm like, look, I live here in San Bernardino. I'm part of the community here. We own a home here. Our children go to school here. We work in the area. I mean, we worship in the area. We're here.
Yes.
It's like, so when you come to me with this idea that, you know, we need to cut this and reallocate funds here and go there and stop policing here and that, it's like, to me, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Why? Because first of all, do you live in my city?
Yeah.
If your answer is no, then okay, I believe our conversation could probably end.
Right.
Because you don't live in my city.
Yeah.
You don't live in my community. If you're somewhere out there in the Midwest, or if you're out there somewhere in the East Coast, things might be different. I can't speak of things that are going on over there because I don't live there. What I can speak on are the things that go on here. And I can tell you my straight out answer is that no, we need more. We need more, but we need more that are trained, that have a healthy balance.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, like I commend, shout out to the San Bernardino Police Department there. They've actually been doing an amazing job,
That's
you know,
awesome.
and they've actually been utilizing their social media. I've been really checking them out these last few months lately. And when incidents happen, they're almost immediately, I want to say it's very quick turnaround that they release like a brief
awareness,
a briefing, you know, awareness, like, hey guys, you know, like, and
this is what happened.
Yeah. Hey guys, last week, I'm sure you guys through news outlets or different channels, you guys saw this officer involved shooting. Here's a breakdown.
Yes.
And they show the breakdown. Here's individual, here is the handgun, here is this, here is the vehicle, here is the body cam. And I'm like, and you know what? And at the end of that, are people going to comment negative things? They might.
Yes.
And those are, again, it's like there is no law, there is no change that can change the human heart.
Correct.
The human heart is a human heart, whether it be good, whether it be bad. That is, no one can ever really touch that, you know, unless that person makes a conscious decision. But, you know, like, it's a positive thing because it brings the community, those that are living in the community, say, man, you know what, like, you know, thank God for them. Or, you know, thank God they're protecting our community.
Absolutely.
They're doing the right thing. And then it wasn't unfortunate because here's the bottom line when I think about officer-involved shootings. here's my thought process. My thought process is no one ever wins.
Correct.
Nobody ever wins.
Very well said.
And I want people to understand that. I even see that when it comes to crime, when it comes to young men shooting other young men or vice versa, whatever. I never see it like, oh man, like, oh, that criminal or oh, that police officer. Oh, they should burn in hell. I never see it that. I'm built in a way where I've understand both sides.
Correct.
And I'm like, man, no one won, because the person that was shot just sadly lost his life. If they lost their life, or if they were harmed, their life is never going to be the same. But also the officer. That officer's life is never going to be the same.
Correct.
Even though it was in self-defense, even if it was on the job, it's not going to be the same.
Nope.
And I always tell people,
everybody suffers.
Everyone suffers. Everybody suffers. And I think the public needs to understand that is put politics to the side. Put this, put that. Just think about the people. Mm-hmm. Think about the people that are going through that. Everyone involved. And I think if we do that more,
yes,
then we will be able to be like, because I feel like sometimes, and I don't know if you can agree with this, but sometimes we're so committed with one extreme or the other.
Yeah, well, yes.
We're committed. And I like to use that word because literally, like, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. If we're committed to an idea, if we're committed to something, no, I don't care. It was wrong. And it's like, wait, no, like, we have to be able to be rational and be you're an officer, you 24 years in the LAPD, retired, and you're still involved. You're able to look at George Floyd's situation and say, that was wrong.
Yes.
That was wrong.
Yes.
And it's like, whoa, wait, like, but this, but that. No, it was wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Look, my daughter, at the time, I think she was like a junior. She was in 10th or 11th grade. And even then, believe me, my daughter and I, she's a teenager. We don't talk about police work or stuff like that. And she's like, Dad, how can he do something? I said, Sophia, check this out. Let me tell you something. I've never been taught that tactic. Right. Two, I've never had I've never done stuff like that, you know? And so that's where this controversy gets created. Yeah. And to your point, when you say committed, it's what we call posturing. You posture and you take a position and you're territorial about it. Right. And you know what? I just want to see it from this lens and this lens only. Yeah. And you leave me with no choice but to I have to defend my side.
Exactly.
Hey man, I'm blue. Yeah. I'm all blue. I'm all for my brothers and sisters in uniform. Yeah. Do we do things that are bad? Yes. Do we get it wrong? Probably more than right. This is in terms of discipline. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of cases that I've worked where officers have been terminated for lying. You know what? You're a liar. Out of here, which is great. There's a new Senate bill that just came out where it has what we call the 9 deadly sins, 9 allegations, 9 serious misconducts definition. One of those is dishonesty, and the other one is this gang affiliation you've been talking about, where the state post, right, Peace Officer Standards and Training, the state saying, you commit one of these 9, guess what? We're going to take your license. Yeah. I'm all for accountability. No one wants a bad apple. No one wants a bad actor. Yeah. Not in your profession, not in any profession. Right. And at times we get it wrong, but just don't forget that at the end of the day, we are human. There is emotions. An OIS is a tragedy. You're 1,000% spot on. There is no right or wrong. No one wins. No one. Everybody suffers. Yeah. But if we can get platforms like this to share and to just keep going and have some awareness, I think that we're heading in the right direction. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. And what is there anything in your personal career that really sparked this, or a situation that might have happened to you that really kind of brought you to, man, I got to be more aware of this? Or were you always just kind of like, you always kind of had that chip in you? It's like, no, I'm going to, do my job to the best of my ability and treat people to the best of the respect.
You know what? It just comes from life experience. I think I suppose if you're 21 or 22 years old and I suppose lived a sheltered life and haven't had any trauma, conflict with your parents and all that comes with that.
Yeah.
I don't know. You might not. You're going to walk into. I mean, think about it. You're going to walk in a situation, domestic violence incident, and aquí está, Juan, who's been married for 30 years, and there's who knows, him and his wife were having issues. Yeah. He probably, abuses her in every way you can think of. And here you are, I got to take you to jail. That's tough to put on a 22-year-old. For me, it wasn't that hard. Why? Because I've experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of neglect, a lot of abandonment. So it kind of prepared me to do this. And I'm a people person. So for me, I've never really had a problem with dealing with these high intense emotional situations. But since I've talked so bad about what happened in my career with my divorce and all that, I will tell you that the department, this career, has really taught me a lot about myself, in a sense that we, and I say we men, I'm going to sound so sexist here, but we're very selfish. Mm-hmm. We really look out for ourselves. And it's always me first. Yeah. At least that's what I've experienced. And I'm not in the island by myself with that. But this job has taught me a lot. Not to be selfish. Having my daughter is the best thing ever. Has taught me to be very unselfish. Yeah. I remember when I was a young police officer, we had this radio call of this lady who was lost. Era como una abuelita. Tenía su sweater, and she basically decided to walk out of the house to get some fresh air, but she made a couple of turns, and next thing you know, she doesn't know her name. She doesn't know where she lives, so she suffered from dementia. Ooh. And I'm thinking, okay, it's 3:00. I get off in an hour. I gotta get my workout and get with the boys and go to a club. That was my focus. Let's do this. I want to hit with the boys. Yeah. So here's this lady. Hablaba español nada más. And we pick her up at this corner because someone called 911. And I put her in the back. ¿Cómo estás, señora? ¿Cómo te llamas? No me acuerdo mi nombre. No sé dónde vivo. And I'm just like, okay. And the whole time I'm still thinking, you know what? I got to go. Yeah. I got to go. Está bien, señora, no te preocupes. Vamos a ver a dónde vives y te voy a llevar a un lugar a ver si lo puedes reconocer donde usted vive. So we took her to one convalescent home. We walk in, bring the manager out. Hey, do you know this? No. We went to another one. No. We went to another one. No. And so here I am in my black and white police vehicle, looking at the rearview mirror, and I see this lady, and the emotion, the expression just got to me. And I'm thinking to myself, how selfish am I? In other words, the hell you're thinking, Marlon? Yeah. All you want to do is go hang out with the boys and do what you want to do. Yeah. But this lady is in dire need of help. And so we get her to the station, and I'm trying to get some info, because I was the only one speaking Spanish. Yeah. And somehow, some way, because she had this sweater that was kind of tight all the way to her wrist. Yeah. She had a bracelet that was stuck in there, and it says, "If lost, please call this number." Oh, wow. At the same time that was going on, a father, right, from the Catholic Church, a priest, and her husband came to the front desk of the station. And so, of course, I told my training officer, I'm all excited. I'm like, I know her name. I found her. And I called the number, and it just it kept ringing. And then I'm overhearing this conversation that this priest and this older man was having with the front desk officer the whole time while we're waiting. And it must have been an hour or two. She starts getting anxiety. She is having an anxiety attack. We had to call the ambulance, and I had to hold her. No me dejes, por favor, hijo. No me dejes, mijito. No te preocupes. Aquí estoy. So I'm just, building this rapport with her, and I'm caressing her and just saying, no, está bien, señora. No te preocupes. Todo va a estar muy bien. And we just cut building, and the whole time I'm just like, I'm just like in awe about what I'm doing. And then sure enough, when they reunited, I mean, it's like right out of a movie, man.
Yeah.
I just, the husband came, she started crying. I mean, emotions were just flying. I mean, everywhere. And she comes up to me and gives me the biggest hug to thank me. Yeah. And you know what, Jorgito? After that, I said, you know what? This is why I came on the job for it.
Yeah.
Very life lessons. I'm taking you back to 1999 when this happened. So these are life lessons that makes me realize that, you know what? I'm good. I'm glad I did what I did.
Yeah.
But people don't see that.
Yeah. And it kind of reminds me of that quote where, the two most important dates of your life are the day you're born and the day you discover why you were born, when you discover your purpose, and I think it sounds like that's the day when you kind of realize like,
this is it.
This is it.
You know
to
what?
Actually help the community.
That's what this is all about. Everything else, we'll move around. We'll deal with it. So.
Yeah, and I think that's why this is such an important conversation to have, because we need to. At the end of the day, I think we need to reestablish, not reform. We need to reestablish that. Hey, officers, like, you're taking an oath. You're taking an oath to serve and protect your community. And the public needs to kind of reestablish you know what? Our officers are here to serve and protect our community, and we really have to take on that factor. It's like, are they always going to get it right? Maybe not, but, we are able to reestablish that trust if we want.
That's right.
If we really want to, it's what I always say, like, healing really comes from being able to conversate, with people and to really like see where they're coming from, really see where they're coming from, because it's easy to point the finger. It's very, very easy, you know what I mean? But, there's nothing like actually, like you said earlier, put yourself in my shoes, and it's true. We have to be able to do that. We have to be able to really put ourselves in our officers' shoes, and really, man, they go through a lot. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of tension, especially now with social media and everything. It puts a lot of pressure on them, and I think of like an incident that I'm not sure if you ever came across it. It got viral. It went viral, that video, and it was in I think he was a LA sheriff deputy, and he made a routine stop somewhere in the LA area. And this lady, I mean, she just went off. Like, she was like calling him racial slurs,
every name under the book.
Yeah, and his demeanor though, like, that's how it went viral, because it was through the body cam, and it went viral because he remained calm the entire time. He remained calm, and I'm like, just looking at that video, I mean, I was like, I don't know if I could have done that.
Yeah.
I don't think those are the good situations that you're talking about earlier, that we need to, why don't we look at that? Why don't we decipher that? Like, here is an officer that, hey, he had every excuse.
Yeah.
I think anyone else in that situation probably would have just, all right, lady, get out of your car. You know what I mean? Like, no, like, hey, I'm pulling you over. I mean, he did everything in the best demeanor, his posture, the way he addressed her, everything. And I mean, at the end of the day, like, I think the public would even agree, is like, she looked dumb. She looked ridiculous. Like, the joke was on her, because at the end of the day, like, she didn't accomplish anything but made herself look bad.
Yeah.
And this officer, he did his job. He did what he had to do. And it made me sad, though, at the same time, because I'm like, dude, like, this guy was just literally doing his job.
Yes.
But then you do see situations sometimes where it's like, you're like, that could have gone.
And that's the one that's going to sell. That's the one that's going to sensationalize.
And that's what's sad about us as people,
society,
is that it's almost like we're addicted to the drama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, we are. We're addicted to the drama, but we need to also, think about our officers, man, that, not too long ago. No, there's already been like a year or two where I think it was in Compton. I believe he was a LAPD officer. I'm not sure if you can kind of recall off the top of your head, but I think it was at night. They were in their patrol car, and then somebody just came and shot one of the officers in the head.
Oh, yes.
Do you remember?
Of course. That happened that was sheriffs.
Sheriffs.
In
right?
the Blue Line. That's the
Yeah.
Long Beach line and one of the stops for the sheriffs.
Yeah.
We, LAPD, have a contract for the MTA train lines as well. It just so happens in that blue line, a couple of the platforms, a couple of the stops are sheriff's jurisdiction. Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah, it happens like that. That's the world we live in.
Yeah.
You know, it's no secret that it's a dangerous job.
Yeah.
But you know what? Here we are to help, and you know, we're just moving right along, brother.
Yeah, no,
that's all we can do.
Let's and I have a question that
Yes.
I kind of want to talk about because it goes in line with what you're currently doing, and maybe even talk about it more in detail. How do we ensure? How do we ensure, or what do you feel would be the best approach that we as the public and the officers both together can ensure that each situation is looked at for what it is and accountability is held?
Well, the first thing I would say is if there is misconduct, what you believe to be misconduct, but then again, how do you know that definition? If you're in whatever encounter you're at with the police
Right.
and you're just being treated badly, you know, or just total disrespected,
Yeah.
improper, inappropriate, that's on you. We have an obligation to investigate that.
Yeah.
The problem is when we tell you the outcome, just know that that outcome has been investigated thoroughly,
Yeah.
right? But I think what happens is that we're not willing to take any accountability. If I were to tell you, which is true, from 2011 to 2015, LAPD received over 3,000 citizen complaints.
Wow.
Okay. Complaints from the public.
In a lapse of what? 4 years? 5
Right.
years?
So every year, 3,000.
Wow.
I can only speak because I just know because I was there at the time. 96.4% of all those complaints were adjudicated as unfounded. That means it never happened. So what does that tell you? What that tells you is that people do complain,
Yeah.
and perhaps maybe you didn't have any EI, and maybe you just went off and were as rude as well.
Yeah.
You know, two people chipping away at each other, that's probably not going to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's kind of like, you know, with your point, you know what? Or like with your loved one, you know what? I'm done. I'm done talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, que se vaya la, you know, whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? So there is encounters like that.
Right.
But then you have an expectation that, you know what? He or she, that officer was wrong, so they should punish them. Well, do some self-reflection.
Right.
That's why I like body-worn video. Body-worn video was born in 2015. So anything from 2015 till today, you want to make a complaint about how rude that officer was?
Thinking
Okay.
There's body cam footage now.
But just know that when you do, it's what we call demonstrably false. Demonstrably false meaning that, well, you should have seen what he called me.
Yeah.
Okay, what did he call you? You know, and the problem is that we as sergeants and officers who are sergeants more than anything that are actually interviewing you, getting some detail about, tell me what happened with my officer so that I can fully investigate.
Right.
But you don't. So there's no winning there. Not that we're trying to win.
Yeah.
There's just, there's no outcome.
Well, it's like,
You know-
it becomes like and I know it's a, you know, children's story. I mean, but it's even the example of it that I can kind of comes to my mind is like the little boy who cried wolf.
Right. And then the
becomes like
the other experience that I've had with discipline is, think about it this way. When you get pissed off, within the first 24 hours, it's like on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 11.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You're
Off the charts.
off the charts. You're angry.
Yeah.
Then you get home, you got to deal with your diaper duty, you got to deal with your kids. You start watching ESPN like I do every day. And all of a sudden it starts
Yeah.
48 hours, it's here. 72 hours, it's here. 96 hours, it's like, dude, I got other deals to deal with.
Right.
But then here comes Sergeant Marrache calling you, hey, Mr. Johnson, can I please talk to you about what happened with my officers at that traffic stop 4 days ago.
Yeah.
And you're like, or you just make stuff up.
Yeah.
You'll embellish it. Who knows? So just know for your audience is that, look, it goes both ways.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here defending, saying that my officers are cheery and they're always very respectful. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Is that if you truly feel that you were 100% disrespected, or that officer treated you inappropriately, go for it all, man, and find out what the outcome is.
Yeah. And I think that's where, I'm glad that you bring that up, because I think that's why a lot of people kind of get that assumption like, oh, they never do anything. But it's not that they don't do anything. It's just that, like you said, they bring cases that are unfounded. You know, there's no evidence.
It didn't occur.
You know, and I think that like we want a perfect system. You know what I mean? Like, you know, we want the right to, you know, not guilty until proven guilty.
Correct.
Right? We love that. You know what I mean? Like when it applies to us.
Yes.
But we don't like it when it applies to others. You know what I mean? Like I was kind of talking, like reflecting on that thought the other day, because I was looking at the Tupac documentary, the new one that came out on Hulu. And it was talking about Tupac's mom's trial.
Yes.
Because she was on trial for, I never even knew about that. It's really interesting, the documentary.
Oh, wow.
But she was on trial with the Black Panthers. And she had the opportunity to defend herself. And she was, at the end of the day, they found them not guilty, you know? And so I was like, man, you know what? Like, in me, this was just my personal thought, but I was like, man, you know what? Because I've been to other countries. And I was like, you know what? Like we complain about our country, but honestly, like if our justice system wasn't set up that way, they probably would have never gotten a not guilty.
Correct.
You know, but because they did have that opportunity, you know, they were able to defend themselves and prove themselves not guilty. So it just reminded me, I'm like, you know, like it's like, yeah, we hate the system. You know what I mean? Sometimes we complain about it, but at the same time, like when it's time for it to be applied to us, no, I'm not, you know, give me, you know, show me mercy, or, you know, prove to me, you know what I mean? And so, but like you said, it goes both ways. Like, and I think that's the thing. We can't just spit out complaints just because maybe we were having a bad day. You know, there's times where we do that. We're like, we're just having a bad day, and we don't realize that we responded bad. You know, like we were just talking about that with my wife right now. I had a situation the other day. It wasn't with an officer. It was actually with a person. And I was telling her, I'm like, yeah, you know, I was talking to so-and-so, and he kind of brought something up, and I started thinking about it, and I didn't realize how much of a jerk I was. You know, I was like, I was a real jerk that day, you know, and it wasn't my intention though. I just was having a bad day, and, you know, somebody was trying to talk to me, and I kind of just brushed them off, you know, without, you know, I didn't mean to, but it happened. And I think sometimes that's the thing. Like, even the public, you got bad days. Sometimes you're going through something. Sometimes you feel that, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that every time I was pulled over, it was a pleasant experience.
Correct.
You know, there was times where it was like, I want everything within me wanted to be defensive. Everything within me wanted to say something. But at the end of the day, like I realized back then that, you know what, I was in the wrong. You know, so why am I going to, you know, come again? They didn't make me do this. You know, they didn't tell me, hey, go do this so that afterwards we can catch you. They didn't do that. At the end of the day, I made a choice. And I know that sometimes people are like, but what about the people that don't make that choice? What about the people that didn't make that choice and they just unjustly were? And I was like, yeah, but that is a bad situation. I was like, but we can't judge the entire book, you know what I mean, by these pages. You know what I mean? Like, we have to be willing to work with our, you know, work with our officers, work with our people. We got to learn how to work together and teach our kids that. Because I think that's the next generation. The next generation. Because I think that's one of my biggest concerns, is that it's not so much that, the public's view of police and this, but it's what we're teaching our children. Yeah. You know, like, I've had to sit down with my kids, you know, and I've had to explain things to them, you know, but I do it in a way where I'm not demonizing
Right.
this group of people
Right.
and sanctifying these people and
Yes.
this and that. Like, no, I tried to teach them like, hey, this situation happened because of this. And what this person did was, that was absolutely wrong. And that shouldn't have happened. But that doesn't mean that all of them are like that.
Correct.
So I want you guys to understand that, and we need to just get down to that.
That's right. Let's all be in the same platform.
Yeah, 100%.
And stop thinking in silos.
Yeah.
The more we talk about this, Jorgito, the more I think to myself, you and I should have been firefighters, bro.
Yeah. Firefighter, man. I don't know.
Bomberos.
They're
the nicest people. They love, everybody loves firefighters, bro.
I wonder if they would have punished me for my honesty.
Maybe not. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, no, but it's what, are we coming to a close? Okay, all right, man. This was so
could have
fun.
been, we
this
could
is
more.
Fun. Yeah, we need to do more. But
let's do it.
I think that today, last words, Marlon.
Yes.
Last words. Anything that you feel in your heart for our audience that you would like to say to them, and you can go ahead and look at that camera right there.
You know what? I can only tell you that have faith, be positive, and have that energy. God does his best work through people. He's so instrumental. There's a reason why I'm here, why I met Jorgito and his lovely wife, who just got hired as a sounding engineer. And she already deserves a raise. But it's just be flexible, have a plan, have faith. And wow, just happy to be here to share my journey, my story, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think we're gonna have to definitely have you back, man, because there is so much situational things that I believe we can cover, and so many things that I would love to bring to light. You know what I mean? And not. Again, it's not for. I hate that I even have to constantly repeat myself with that it's not about being political driven. And that's why I did this. That was one of the things, because I saw too many conversations going on, on the outside and platforms like social media where it would break my heart. And I said, no, you know what? We need to see the beauty in people's stories.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to see, like, they go through so much, and I respect you so much, being an LAPD vet, and then still doing what you're doing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And we appreciate you. We appreciate your service. We appreciate you. We show a lot of love and respect, to you and to what you do. And even though there was a lot of, like I said earlier, even though I had a lot of some run-ins back in the day, but you know what? I had so many good run-ins, and a lot of people that actually, I can honestly say this with no lie, a lot of people that inspired me to do better and to even leave the life that I was living as a gang member in and out of juvie. A lot of them were the COs. A lot of them were the probation officers. A lot of them were a lot of the detectives, the cops that, you know what, they didn't forget the human factor, and and I'm so grateful for them. And I wish that I could write them a letter. I wish that hopefully they see this one day.
Yes.
And hopefully they can come across this and they remember me. But I'm so appreciative for those people. I'm so appreciative for those voices that spoke into that 15, 16, 17-year-old young man and told him that he can do better. I'm so grateful for those. Many of them even wrote letters for me afterwards, when I needed recommendation. So look, I say that, again, it's not because one side is better than the other. This isn't about sides. This is about us being human. This is us about being just people, and understanding that just like we're people, our officers are people. So I want to encourage you, next time you see an officer in the drive-thru or someone, buy them a Starbucks, invite them something, tell them thank you. Tell them thank you, because what they're doing in our community, especially here in San Bernardino. I want to thank the San Bernardino Police Department for their tremendous job that they've been doing lately. Thank you guys so much. So this was Offbeat Podcast, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Soon there will be a part 2.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there will be a part 2. And so stay tuned for that, man. All right, guys. Peace out. Let's go. Man,